I played baseball when I was a kid, so that took a lot of hand-eye coordination, and I think that helped me with my football, and I just enjoyed playing, and I guess it was a natural thing for me. I was always reasonably quick when I was young, and while I did work on my speed, I did sprint training and that once I started playing at grade level, but I guess it probably did come pretty natural, but it wasn't something that I took for granted. I did work a little bit harder at certain areas, and well, a lot of the guys that I played with would probably disagree with that and say, well, we know how you train, but it's always had a ball in my hand, as did most of the guys. We used to actually have a cricket bat and a tennis ball, and we'd just sort of do slips catches. The batsman would be there, guys would throw the ball, and his job would be to hit the ball towards slips, and I guess that probably helped us as well, you know, the hand-eye coordination. A lot of it did just sort of come natural, but I don't think, when I say natural, I think there was a lot of work that I did earlier on in my youth. Probably didn't realise at the time that was helping me with my football. When I was a younger kid, you know, playing under 10s, 11s, 12s, I was a South Sydney supporter, and at that age it was always a goal was to play for South. But as I got older and playing 16s and 17s, started to realise that the opportunity for me to play first grade football and eventually maybe get to South was to play for the local side first, and that being Parramatta, and because I played all my junior football at Guildford, which is a junior club in the Parramatta district. I realised then that that was where I had to go, was Parramatta. I played some junior rep football for Parramatta in Jersey Flegg, and then I was actually trialling for the President's Cup, which was under 21s at that stage, and we had a trial game against guys that were trialling for grade in the under 23s, and after that game, or after that weekend, I received a phone call from Ron Fernley, who was the coach of the under 23s then, and he asked me to come across and try out for grade. So away I went and got there, and as I said, it was a bit of a shock. It was something that was unexpected, but certainly good. It was a great place to be. The first probably 4 or 5 weeks of the competition, I sat on the bench for the under 23s, and there was even a stage where I was tempted to go back to Guildford and play in the A grade competition just to get a game under my belt, but I was fortunate enough to get a start in the 23s, and I think I played probably 4 or 5 games there, and then it was against St George at Cogra Oval. I played 2 games in one day. Played, I think, on the wing in the 23s, come off and went straight back out and played on the wing in reserve grade, scored a try, and the following week was selected in reserve grade, and then 6 weeks later made my debut in first grade. So it was sort of a big jump from C grade 12 months earlier into first grade, and it was a surprise. It was a bit of a shock to the system, but you mentioned Mick Cronin, and it was great playing outside Mick, and I've always said that, and I feel that my career was able to get off to a good start because I had him playing inside me, and he certainly looked after me. I was 19 years of age and very inexperienced at that level of football, and I'm sure at times Mick probably would have passed the football to his outside support, but because he knew it was me and I was inexperienced, he held the football and probably copped a few more knocks than he probably should have, but he certainly looked after me and made it very easy for me to adjust to first grade. Jack was great. I always remember when they announced that Jack Gibson was going to be the coach, I always thought that he was a real taskmaster, and I had the feeling that, you know, whatever he said you had to do, and if you didn't do it right, he'd come down hard on you. But he was completely the opposite sort of man, and a gentle sort of guy, and had a dry sense of humour, and very honest, and that was the thing I liked about him. Jack would sit you down and he would tell you straight how he thought you were playing, and you knew where you stood, but he read his players very well. I always remember a story where I'd just come back from the Kangaroo Tour in '82 and went straight into training, never had a rest, and it was midway through '83 and I wasn't playing all that well, and Jack could see that, and I arrived at training and we were training at Granville Park, and I got out of the car and I was told that Jack wanted to see me in his office. Well, I went weak at the knees. I just didn't want to go in there. I thought, oh, geez, what have I done? And he sat me down and he just told me he didn't want me to play that weekend. And I hadn't missed a game for 2 years. And I said, oh, I'd like to play. And Jack said, well, mate, if you want to play, you'll be playing reserve grade. Of course, the decision was made pretty quickly for me. I said, okay, I'll have the week off. And he told me to go home. That day, it was a Tuesday night. He told me to get in my car, go home. Had the week off, don't even go to the game, which I did, and I went back to training the following Tuesday night, and then from there on in, started playing really well. And he realised that I was just tired, I'd had enough football, I needed a week off and have a break, and did that, and I learned from that experience. A similar thing happened to me in '87, after touring in '86 with the Kangaroos, and because of that experience, I was able to realise what I had to do, and while I didn't have a week off, I just knew that it would be a matter of time and I'd be right. But he just knew. He knew how to read players, and I've never forgotten it.
Did he treat the other players the same way?
Yeah, I mean that was Jack. The thing about him too is that he knew everybody, from the fullback in first grade down to the guy sitting on the bench in the under-23s. He knew everybody and knew the way they played. And I know a lot of people, Parramatta supporters, would they used to know every player that played in their teams, but there would be guys that would come on in first grade that people would never have heard of, and they were playing in the 23s earlier on in that day, and Jack had seen how they played, and I guess as a reward he had them shower and not to go home. They were told to stay, and then were told a little later on that you're sitting on the bench for first grade, and it was just a reward for the guys. And this was the sort of thing he did, and that's why I think players like to play for him, because of the way he treated them. He treated them with respect, and he demanded respect, and he got respect, of course, the way he treated you. And I think most players would agree, if Jack said we want you to run through that brick wall, you'd give it your best to try and get through it.
Wayne Pearce, what a fine physique this boy's got. And Kenny, oh well, that was a weak tackle. And these Australians are literally ripping holes through this Great Britain cover. And with 18 minutes gone, they go even further ahead. I
know the night of the grand final, when they announced the side, I went through quite a few different emotions. At one stage I was happy that I'd been selected to represent my country, and I was going away on a kangaroo tour, and then probably 10 minutes later I started to think, geez, I'm going to be away from home for 3 months, and I'd never sort of done anything like that. I'd been away on end of season football trips, but never been away outside of the country and been away for that long, and I sort of just didn't know what to expect and what to think. And I was fortunate. I think there was probably 6 of us from Parramatta that got selected, so I had a lot of guys there that I knew. I was a relatively quiet sort of bloke. I never sort of went out of my way to introduce myself to people. It was more a case of they had to come to me, and then I'd start to talk to them. And so I didn't know a lot of the players. I knew who they were, but I didn't know them personally. And as I said, it was fortunate that there was a lot of 6 guys from Parramatta. So I spent a bit of time with them for the first week and a half, and got to know the other guys that were on the tour, the blokes from Queensland, of course the other guys that played in the Sydney clubs, and it was a very good tour. It was a learning experience for me. Bit of a shock to be playing in test matches. I'll admit, when I left to go over there, I expected to just play against the club teams and be in like what you'd call the B team, which were known as the Emus, and the team that played in the test matches were always the Kangaroos. And I expected to be an Emu, and was very fortunate to be playing well enough and get selected in the test match. And once we won the first test match, I guess it was always going to be difficult to change the team. I guess a dream come true, firstly to represent your country, but to play in a side like that was just so many great players. And the other thing was the fact that I was playing alongside Steve Rogers, who, along with Mick Cronin, were 2 of my idols. As a youngster, I played a lot at 5'8", but towards the end of my junior career I was playing in the centres, and and Mick Cronin and Steve Rogers were the two Australian centres, and I sort of idolised these two guys. I always thought that the perfect centre would be a guy that was as big and as strong as Mick Cronin, but as agile as Steve Rogers, and I modelled my game on both those guys, and here I was, I'd already achieved one thing by playing alongside Mick Cronin, who was one of my idols, and here I was now playing alongside Steve Rogers, and it was just a great team. It was something, as I said, I never expected to be playing in a test match, and of course never thought that Wally Lewis, who I think was the vice captain at the time, would miss out on selection in the test team. And here I was the one that actually kept him out of the side. But in saying that, Wally was great about it. I mean, a lot of people would expect a player to be filthy with you and not want to talk to you and not associate with you, but Wally was the complete opposite. Always encouraged me, and we got on very well and sort of become friends from that tour on.
It's back for Sterling. A short pass for Kenny. Kenny for the line. Kenny scores for New South Wales.
I enjoyed playing against Wally because he was the best player in the world, the best 5'8" in the world, and it sort of brought the best out in you when you're playing the best players. Terry Lamb was another one that I felt always brought the best out of me. I approached the game against Terry Lamb the same way as I approached the game against Wally Lewis. And Wally, I wouldn't say, he wasn't easy to read, but the thing is, we never really come in contact with each other that much in general play. It was mainly from a scrum. Because of the different styles that we had, I was always a little bit wider in general play than Wally. Wally was always, sometimes was first receiver for Queensland. I was never in that position. So from scrum plays, yeah, we used to come in contact with each other, but it was just something that I thought, well, I had to get up quick on Wally from a scrum, and the best I could do was try and take him ball and all and stand there with him and hope that the lock, whether it be Ray Price or Wayne Pearce, would get in and help me, because there's no way in the world I was going to be strong enough to take him, ball and all, and do it all on my own. So, because he was a very strong player, but that was just the way I approached the game. And we had some good sides when we played against Queensland, and we won the series in '85, and won it again in '86. So it wasn't a case of me being able to control Wally as the reason we won it. I played a part in the game where I was able to perform well against Wally and probably contain him a little more than some other 5'8" were able to do, but it was the rest of the side that I had around me that really helped us win the game, and they all did their jobs as I did mine, and that's why we were successful in those 2 years.
Centre of the field, so New South Wales have the option to go either side as Sterling puts a floater on, he gets it to Kenny, Kenny will get it out, and they're really good! Oh, great try! O'Connor in for New South Wales off another Kenny pass.
There's a lot of talk about they were more passionate about it as well. Well, the sides I played in for New South Wales, as I said, we won it in '85 and '86, but I was there, experienced State of Origin in '83, '84, and we didn't win the series. But you couldn't tell me that there were any players in those two teams that weren't as passionate about playing for New South Wales as any Queenslander was playing in the maroon jersey. Back then, the State of Origin series was a lead-up. It was a trial game, I suppose, in a way, for a test jumper. So you weren't going out there just to run around for nothing. You were going out there to get the honour of playing for your country.
Farah underneath it well, though, takes it. Winds up with that familiar style and gets out of 2. Farah out of 2, out of 3. Good run from Farah, still going. They finally bell him down, and that's a great run from Andrew Farah, showing plenty of determination. And that's what the Blues are about. They want to wrap this series up. And here's another break. New South Wales with a chance now as they run down. And Crusher Kyle will score. And that's about it for the Blues, let me tell you. A great try. Oh, Crusher underneath the post with a beauty. Oh. And that came from nothing. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Explosion running from New South Wales.
And it did get to the stage that State of Origin was probably more important, well, not more important, but it was a bigger type game for players, and it was something that everyone wanted to experience, more so than a test match. It was an unfortunate thing for rugby league, and it still is. I mean, I still believe players look at playing for Australia is the highlight of your career, and that is the ultimate goal, to play for your country. But as far as the atmosphere and the pressure, I guess, of a game, State of Origin is a game that you want to play in.